my name is Lauren Bernofsky. I am a composer, and I'm here to show you that composers are actual, real people. Now, I know a lot of you play pieces and you know what the title is, but a lot of people don't think about who the composer is behind it, so I thought I would introduce myself today and show you around my very messy studio. Okay, let's take a look at what's here. I'm going to show you my bookshelf here. All right, top shelf. This is my educational music. So you take a look over here, some of my pieces, the Red Iguana Rumba, Raindrop Serenade, Postcard from Mars. These are all publications of mine by various publishers. I'll just take one out so you can take a look. Here's my Rubber Chicken Soup, published by FJH. Okay, put that one back. So I tend to keep, make sure I get that in the right place. I tend to keep one, sometimes two copies of each piece, because sometimes a piece of mine is being done in town and someone asked me to come conduct it, and it's good to be able to pull it off my shelf. So here's some other ones. They're mainly alphabetical, when I got that right. In the middle are a bunch of sort of junk binders. Very often, if I have a piece that's recently written and it hasn't been published yet, but we're getting ready for the premiere of it, I'll print out a copy. Let's see what we have here. This is, oh, upside down. Okay. Looks like this is, Mooch the Magnificent. All right, an opera of mine, and I guess I have the percussion part here. Oh, I know why, because I was asked to play percussion in a performance. So that's some of what these are. This one says Interlochen there, because I taught composition there for 2 summers, so I have a binder from that. All right, let's take a look at the next shelf down here. This is what I would call my professional concert music. So this would be done by college level players or professionals. Take a look at what we have here. Let's see. This is my young audience opera, Rufus and Rita. So it is. It was written to be performed for young audiences, children, but performed by professionals. So that's why I have it on this shelf here. Let's see what else we have here. This is a choral piece of mine, The Tiger. This can be done by kids too, but also adults do this one. Here. My concerto for trumpet and orchestra. That was my dissertation piece for Boston University, and that's 100 pages of music there. I know because I did all the writing and proofreading, and that took about 2 years to write that piece. And let's see what's interesting over here. Here's my 5 songs on poems of Robert Herrick. That's one of my favorite pieces that I've written, actually. It's for soprano and string orchestra with percussion, and this is an early version of it. I wrote my copy on it because I probably used this in rehearsals of the premiere of it. And so this is a sort of self-published version of it. I went to the copy shop and had them put that spiral binding on, and then a number of years later it got actually published by Theodore Presser, real publisher there. Okay, let's see. Next shelf down, I have a bunch of odds and end books here. This is a biography of one of my musical heroes, Leonard Bernstein, so that's why that's there. Okay, and then the next one down, let's see some old videos. This is Wizard of Oz. I was once commissioned to write some ballet music for a Wizard of Oz production, and so that's the video from that premiere. Oh, and here is a lovely instrument called the kalimba, and I'll play a few notes. This inspired a piece of mine called Kalimba Lullaby. I saw this in a shop, and I just fell in love with it. So I bought it and played around with it, and then I came up with a little tune that I made into a pizzicato string orchestra piece. All right, here, this is some of my conducting batons, because I sometimes get asked to guest conduct various performances, concerts. My most recent one was an all-region orchestra in North Carolina. And here, this box has been with me a long time. This is my first box of compositions. I carried it around from college dorm room to dorm room, I think, and I just kept everything in here conveniently. And I'm just going to find my first piece that I wrote that wasn't just a composition exercise. And here it is. This is my sonata for violin and piano. So I wrote this when I was 17, And I wrote it using a whole tone scale. That means whole steps from every note to every next note in the scale, whole tone scale. And that's what my handwriting looked like. As you can see, this was well before the time of computer engraving. And this is the piano score. So that's what my handwriting looked like. I definitely used a ruler for those beams there. All right, it's going to take me too long to put that back, so I'll just leave that there for now. All right, let's take a look at something else. All right, here's another bookshelf of stuff. Here at the top, this is a little poster that one of my publishers, Theodore Presser, made for me. As you can see, it says My Music for Brass. So sometimes I'll go to conferences and display my music there and sell it, and people can look through it. So that's a list of all my brass pieces at the time. I've probably written a few since that was made. Okay, next over here. Oh, I want to show you this book. This is about a violinist, Maud Powell. She lived around 1900, on either side of 1900, and I had not heard of her until I was contacted by a violinist named Megan Healy at the University of Colorado Boulder, and she commissioned me to write a solo violin sonata in memory of Maud Powell. And I said, who's Maud Powell? And she sent me this book, and Maud Powell was an incredible musician, not just violinist, an incredible performer, yes, but also it was very important to her to bring music to audiences that wouldn't normally get to hear classical music. For instance, she would visit military hospitals, and she was absolutely beloved wherever she went. And she also worked with a lot of composers, and she gave the American premiere of a number of works, including the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto. So not bad. So she was really important in her time. And why did we not know about her? Why did I not know about her? Well, probably because she's a woman, because often women are not talked about in history as much as men are. So that was part of why this violinist, Megan Healy, wanted to commission me to write a piece, and she commissioned a few other composers too, just to bring attention to and celebrate the memory of Maud Powell. All right, next up, I'm going to show you this book. This is also important to me. This is a book about Max Eastman, and he was an American poet, author, editor. He actually also played an important role in rights of women for voting. So that was quite an interesting character. And this book is especially meaningful to me because of the author, Christoph Irmscher, and that's my husband. All right, to put that back. And I do have to admit, I am a big fan of David Sedaris. I love to laugh. I think he's hilarious. So I try to read everything that Sedaris brings out. Okay, what else? More various books. This is my violin music, mainly violin music. That's my instrument. Here are some binders of trio music. I used to play in a trio for 2 violins and cello, and I have all sorts of arrangements in here, and of various pieces that work for trio. And some of the arrangements are by me, some by other people I played with. And I used to do a lot of playing for weddings and parties, Christmas celebrations, church services. So that's why I have that. Okay, moving down. Some interesting artifacts here. Why do I have an alligator? Because I just like it. My mother was a school teacher in the New Orleans public schools. And when she retired, she cleaned out her classroom, and she sent me some important items like this. I didn't have a great place for it, but I sort of like it there. One of my favorite items. Isn't that disgusting? This is a roach, and it played a big part, unfortunately, in my life growing up in New Orleans, because these things were everywhere. And this is sort of a life-size model of a roach, and I bought this at Tulane University, the bookstore, because I was taking a class there one summer when I was in college, and I saw this there, and I just had to buy that. Again, great gag. I have scared the crap out of some people before with this. Kind of fun. All right. At one point, it even looks gross upside down. At one point I learned to juggle. I'm terrible at it, but it was fun trying. Okay, let me show you some other parts of my room. Here is an electric keyboard that I use to compose on sometimes, though most of my composing I do downstairs. I have a really nice piano I'm lucky enough to own. This electric keyboard is hooked up through a MIDI cable to my computer, and I use it to input notes when I am putting my music into a music notation program. As you see, I'm pretty disorganized. Lots of stuff I mean to get to and don't always. Here's some music projects. Okay, that's a mess. Let's see. Oh, this is also a mess. This is my desk. Yes, I do live this way. Let's see. I often use to-do lists, and I don't always get to everything, but when it's really important, I'll put a box, so I feel the guilt of needing to check off that box. I am old school. Here's my date book. This is what I use for a calendar. For some reason, I don't quite trust electronics, and I have a calendar book like this from every day since 1985, so it's kind of nice to keep track of my history that way. If we look into where we are currently, there's not, oh, look at this. We have a lot of things that are crossed out. That's because I'm making this video in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so lots of cancellations there, sadly. Earlier, when things were still going on, I had more going on there. Anyway, so that's my calendar. All sorts of, let's see, what else do we have here? Cello piece. Bill I need to pay. I guess I'll put that back on top somewhere. Yeah, so this is my messy desk area. I wanted to show you on the wall here this photo. It was taken right after the world premiere of my Trio for Brass, and there I am right there, and the name of that group is the Del Mar Trio. That was down in Corpus Christi, Texas. And right under that, that is a drawing that I did in high school. It was right at the end of high school, and I was about to leave for college, and that's a drawing of my cat, Alex. And I made a couple drawings of him in different poses because he was really important to me, and I knew I wouldn't be seeing him when I went off to college because he lived with my parents in New Orleans, and my undergrad in college I went off to Connecticut, so I thought I'd make those drawings to remember him by. Okay, next I'm going to show you something on the floor. Yes, I do actually keep things on the floor sometimes when it's a project I'm working on or should be working on, so it's a reminder that I need to finish it. These are the orchestral parts to my trumpet concerto, so part for every instrument in the orchestra, and I'm just going over fine-tuning this a little bit. So I go through, I print it out, and I use a red pencil to make little comments if there are things that says bigger, because the word solo trumpet there is way too small. Anyway, so that's what this is. Let's see what else I can show you. All right, finally I'd like to show you this mess here. These are all badges from various conferences that I go to, music conferences. Let's see what we have here. International Trumpet Guild, Metropolitan Opera, the Midwest Clinic. The reason I go to conferences is to connect with other musicians, because as a composer I can't just write in a vacuum. I really need, and I depend on, the feedback from performers and conductors and audience members. So when I go to these conferences, sometimes I get to hear a piece of mine performed, or maybe I'll talk to an instrumentalist who comes up to me and says, hey, I just played your 2 Latin dances last month and I had a great time playing it, and thanks for writing that kind of music. And when I get feedback like that, it helps me know what kind of music I'm writing that's most appreciated by people, because I want to be writing music that's useful to people. It also sometimes gives me ideas for other pieces. For instance, once I was at the Midwest Clinic and someone came up to me and said, oh, you're Lauren Bernofsky. Hey, we just played your House of Untold Horrors a couple weeks ago, and the kids had a great time doing it. Would you consider writing a piece that would work for a winter concert? And I thought, well, that's actually a great idea. And I started writing that piece on my drive on the way home. I get a lot of inspiration from the different performers that I get to meet at these conferences, so that's a big part of my existence as a composer. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little tour of my studio, and next time you play a piece, don't just look at the title, take a look at who the composer is, and maybe you'll even like to do a little research on them. Might inform how you play the piece. Okay, happy music making.